In the depths of an ancient African forest, the villagers of Makumba face a curse that threatens to destroy everything they hold dear. As the shadow of the feared witch doctor Ngolo looms over them, Chief Bantu must make a choice, one that will either save his people or doom them to darkness. Will the villagers find the strength to break the curse, or will they be consumed by the witch doctor's shadow? Journey with us to discover the fate that awaits them in the shadow of the witch doctor. In the heart of the African savanna, where golden grasses swayed under the scorching sun, lay the village of Makumba. For generations, the people of Makumba lived in harmony with nature, drawing strength from the earth and the spirits of their ancestors. But recently, a dark shadow had fallen over the village. Crops were withering, livestock were falling ill, and an unnatural silence had settled over the village. The villagers whispered of a curse, a dark force that had awakened. One by one, the signs of the curse began to appear. Trees stopped bearing fruit, and the springs dried up. Even the children of the village, who had been full of energy, were now sickly and weak. The people of Makumba didn't know what force they were facing, but everyone felt that something beyond natural problems was at play. The rumors of the curse were still circulating when one day a mysterious man arrived in the village. He was known as Ngolo, a witch doctor with a terrifying reputation that preceded him from distant lands. His appearance immediately aroused fear and anxiety among the villagers. Ngolo was draped in animal skins, with necklaces of bones and strange charms hanging around his neck. His eyes were so penetrating that it seemed as if they could peer into the depths of anyone's soul. Ngolo's eyes were so dark and piercing that anyone who met his gaze felt as though all their secrets were being laid bare. His presence brought an aura of fear and darkness to the village. Ngolo didn't need to speak. His presence alone was enough to send shivers down the spine of anyone who saw him. Some of the elderly in the village who remembered the old stories were terrified at the sight of him. They knew that Ngolo's arrival was never without reason. Chief Bantu, the respected leader of Makumba, knew he had to act. The village elders had warned him of the curse, and now Ngolo's arrival confirmed their worst fears. Bantu, known as a wise and brave leader, decided to confront Ngolo. He wanted to know why this witch doctor had come to their village and what his intentions were. A meeting was arranged in the elders' hut. Bantu sat across from Ngolo and asked firmly, "Why are you here?" Ngolo spoke in a low, eerie voice, as if his words had risen from the depths of darkness. He told Chief Bantu that the spirits were angry. A powerful curse had been placed on the village, and this curse was the cause of all their recent misfortunes. Ngolo claimed that only he could lift the curse, but for that the village would have to pay a heavy price. His words struck Chief Bantu like a dagger. Bantu realized he was dealing with forces beyond human power. Ngolo continued, explaining in his raspy voice that the only way to lift the curse was to offer the sacrifices he demanded. He asked for sacrifices that horrified Chief Bantu. Ngolo demanded that the village's livestock, crops, and most disturbingly, a child be sacrificed to the spirits to lift the curse. Chief Bantu couldn't accept that such a heavy price had to be paid to save the village. He didn't want to endanger his people, but his options were limited. Ngolo sternly repeated his demands, emphasizing that if the sacrifices were not made, the curse would remain, and the village would soon be completely destroyed. He warned Chief Bantu that time was running out, and that delaying the decision would lead to even worse consequences. With the heavy responsibility of the villagers weighing on his shoulders, Bantu hesitated. He had to choose between saving the village and losing its most valuable assets. Chief Bantu couldn't make up his mind. On one hand, he didn't want to endanger his people, but on the other hand, he couldn't accept sacrificing an innocent child. This decision was putting him under immense pressure. The villagers looked to him for a solution, and Bantu was overwhelmed with the thought of this decision. He knew that whatever choice he made would have long-lasting effects on the village. The village elders gathered to discuss N'Golo's demands. The air was thick with tension as they debated the impossible choice before them. Some believed that the curse was a punishment from the spirits and that they must submit to N'Golo's demands to save the village. Others feared that giving in would only strengthen the witch doctor's control over them. The discussions were long and exhausting, but no one could make the final decision. If you have come this far and you liked the video, be sure to like the video and let's continue the story. Some of the elders were deeply afraid of the wrath of the spirits. They believed that the curse was a sign of the spirits' displeasure, and that if they ignored N'Golo's demands, they would face terrible consequences. They urged Bantu not to provoke the spirits' anger and to agree to N'Golo's demands. These elders believed that perhaps by offering the sacrifices, the village could be saved and peace restored. On the other hand, some elders argued that sacrificing an innocent child could never be right. They believed that such an act would only make N'Golo more powerful and increase his control over the village. These elders warned Bantu not to be swayed by dark magic and insisted that they find another way to save the village. They were concerned that if they gave in to N'Golo's demands, the village would forever be under his domination. Meanwhile, the villagers were filled with fear and anxiety about the future. They didn't know what fate awaited them or what they should do. Whispers circulated throughout the village. Some supported Chief Bantu's decision, while others believed they should offer the sacrifices as soon as possible. Anxiety and worry were etched on everyone's faces, and no one could find peace. The people didn't know which path was right, and this uncertainty made them more suspicious of each other. As time passed, the conflict between the elders and Chief Bantu deepened. Everyone had a suggestion, but no one could be sure which decision was the right one. Bantu remained in doubt and anxiety, unsure of how to save his village from this crisis. Some of the elders even considered leaving the village, believing that the curse was now beyond remedy. But Chief Bantu refused to abandon the village and was determined to find a way to save it. Do you believe that giving in to N'Golo's demands would have truly saved the village, or would it have only strengthened his dark power? Write the answer to this question in the comment. N'Golo met with Chief Bantu again. He warned the chief that time was running out and that a decision must be made soon. He said the spirits were growing impatient and that if the sacrifices were not offered in time, the village would be destroyed. Bantu remained uncertain, unable to make a decision. N'Golo, in a threatening tone, told Bantu that he and his people should prepare for even more severe consequences if the decision was delayed. Chief Bantu tried to make an alternative offer to N'Golo. He told N'Golo that the village was willing to offer part of their wealth as a sacrifice, but he could not agree to sacrificing a child. Bantu tried to persuade N'Golo to accept this offer and lift the curse. But N'Golo would only be satisfied with the sacrifices he had demanded, refusing to accept any other proposal. This put Chief Bantu in an even tighter spot, adding more pressure on him. The nights in the village grew darker and more terrifying. People reported hearing strange sounds and seeing mysterious shadows around the village. The fear among the villagers intensified, and rumors spread that N'Golo's curse was growing stronger. Some claimed to see shadows moving in the surrounding forests and hear eerie whispers in the darkness. These nights only deepened the villagers' fear and anxiety, and many didn't dare to step outside their homes. Realizing that he could not make the decision alone, Chief Bantu decided to consult the village's spiritual leader. He hoped the spiritual leader could find a solution that did not require sacrifices. Bantu told the spiritual leader that he could not trust N'Golo and didn't want to leave the village in his hands. The spiritual leader was also aware of the dangers of dark magic. He advised Chief Bantu to trust in natural solutions and positive forces and to avoid the darkness. The spiritual leader suggested holding a ceremony to call upon the positive spirits and ask them to neutralize N'Golo's curse. In the end, Chief Bantu decided not to give in to Ngolo's demands. He chose to work with the spiritual leader to protect his people. Bantu announced to the villagers that a ceremony would be held to summon the positive spirits, and he urged them to participate with faith. This decision gave the villagers a sense of power and hope. They resolved to fight for their village with faith in the positive spirits, rather than surrendering to dark magic. When Ngolo learned that Chief Bantu had decided to refuse his demands, he was furious. He threatened to strengthen the curse and subject the villagers to even harsher punishment. Feeling threatened, Ngolo decided to use his dark magic to plunge the village into even deeper darkness. His threats made the villagers more fearful, but Bantu and the spiritual leader were determined to resist. The spiritual leader held a ceremony to call upon the positive spirits and counter Ngolo's curse. The villagers joined the ceremony with hope, gathering around the sacred fire. Ngolo tried to disrupt the ceremony with his dark magic. He cast spells to weaken the positive spirits and instill fear in the people. But the spiritual leader and the villagers resisted. They stood firm against the dark magic with their faith and unity. A spiritual battle between darkness and light began, with every moment of the ceremony turning to a struggle between the two forces. The villagers put all their efforts into escaping the grip of dark magic. The villagers, united in their faith in the spiritual leader and the positive spirits, resisted the dark magic. Ngolo made many attempts, but he couldn't defeat them. With each passing moment, the power of the positive spirits grew stronger, while Ngolo's magic weakened. The people continued the ceremony with greater hope and faith, and in the end, Ngolo was forced to surrender. He realized that he could no longer dominate the village and had to retreat. As the ceremony concluded, the signs of the curse gradually disappeared. Crops began to grow, and the livestock regained their health. The village came back to life, and the people rejoiced that they had been saved from the darkness. The positive spirits called upon by the villagers had neutralized Ngolo's curse and restored light and life to the village. It was a moment of victory for the people of Makumba. Seeing that his plans had failed, Ngolo fled the village. He returned to the dark depths of the African forests and disappeared from sight. Ngolo knew he could never return to the village and was aware of his defeat. He retreated into the shadows, hiding in the darkness of the forest. The villagers, who had learned from this experience, understood that dark magic could not prevail over faith and unity. The villagers were deeply grateful to the spiritual leader and Chief Bantu for their courage and leadership during these difficult times. They held a grand celebration to thank the positive spirits. The people were happy that they had been able to save their village from the darkness, and this celebration was a symbol of their victory and unity. The spiritual leader and Chief Bantu were honored as the heroes of the village. This experience showed the villagers that the power of unity and faith could overcome darkness and dark magic. They decided to remain vigilant against dark forces and to always seek the help of the positive spirits. The villagers grew closer to each other, and their unity and solidarity were strengthened. This experience taught them that only through cooperation and joint effort could they overcome challenges and emerge from any crisis. The village of Makumba returned to its peace and splendor. The people became more united, and the story of Ngolo's curse was passed down to future generations as a warning to stay away from darkness. This story served not only as a warning but also as a reminder of the power of faith and unity against dark forces. The villagers resolved to always remember that no force is stronger than their unity and faith. After witnessing the villagers' struggle, do you think faith and unity are enough to overcome dark forces, or is something more required? Write the answer to this question in the comment. If you like this story, I will be happy to subscribe to the channel and activate the bell and wait for the next video that we will share together. Take care until the next video.